Aloneness and loneliness are often mistaken for the same thing, but they are entirely different experiences. Loneliness is a state of emotional emptiness, a feeling of isolation that comes from a lack of meaningful connection. It is often accompanied by sadness and the desperate craving for companionship. On the other hand, aloneness is not a condition of lack, but an opportunity for self-awareness and personal growth. It is the ability to enjoy one's own presence without feeling incomplete. Many people fear being alone because they have never learned how to be with themselves. They constantly seek external validation, social interactions, or distractions to escape the silence. But in doing so, they miss out on one of life's greatest gifts, solitude. The truth is, solitude is where self-discovery happens. It is where you meet yourself without filters, without pretenses, without the noise of the world telling you who you should be. Throughout history, the most influential leaders, philosophers, and creators have understood the power of aloneness. Great thinkers like Socrates, Leonardo da Vinci, and Albert Einstein spent hours in solitude, reflecting, questioning, and exploring the depths of their minds. Spiritual leaders like Jesus, Buddha, and Muhammad often withdrew into solitude before stepping into their greater purpose. Why? Because clarity, wisdom, and direction are found in moments of stillness, not in the chaos of the crowd. Most people go through life never truly knowing themselves because they are afraid of what they might find in silence. They fear facing their insecurities, their weaknesses, and their unresolved emotions. But aloneness is not something to be feared. It is something to be embraced. It is in solitude that we confront our deepest thoughts, process our emotions, and gain mastery over our inner world. Instead of running from silence, we should learn to sit with it, listen to it, and allow it to shape us into stronger, wiser individuals. When you master the art of being alone, you no longer depend on others for happiness. You no longer settle for toxic relationships just to fill a void. You become emotionally independent, confident, and self-sufficient. You realize that your worth is not defined by how many people surround you, but by how deeply you know yourself. The difference between loneliness and aloneness is choice. One imprisons you, while the other sets you free. Isolation has always been misunderstood. Many see it as a punishment, a painful detachment from society, but in reality, it is one of the most powerful tools for self-discovery. Purpose is not found in noise, distractions, or the company of others. It is found in solitude. It is in moments of separation from the world that clarity begins to emerge. And a person's true calling becomes visible. The greatest figures in history have experienced seasons of isolation before stepping into their purpose. These were not periods of suffering, but of preparation. In isolation, one is forced to confront the questions that truly matter. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? These questions rarely find answers in the busyness of everyday life, where the opinions of others drown out the voice of self-awareness. Instead, they are answered in moments of deep reflection, when there is no one else to impress, no distractions to numb the mind, and no pressures to conform. When a person embraces solitude, they begin to hear themselves more clearly. They begin to recognize the desires, dreams, and abilities that have always been within them, but were buried beneath societal expectations and personal insecurities. Many of the world's greatest leaders and visionaries have gone through a season of solitude before stepping into their destiny. Moses spent years in the wilderness before leading his people. Jesus withdrew to the desert before his ministry began. Buddha meditated alone under a tree before he reached enlightenment. These were not accidental moments, they were intentional. They were necessary. The silence was not empty. It was filled with transformation insight, and preparation. It was in their isolation that they became who they were meant to be. In today's world, people fear being alone because they associate it with loneliness. But true isolation, when embraced with purpose, is not a curse. It is a gift. It is a time to grow, to discover, and to align with one's destiny. Those who never allow themselves to be alone often struggle to understand their true path in life. They rely on external influences to dictate their choices rather than finding strength from within. But those who welcome solitude with open arms find something far greater: clarity, confidence, and a sense of purpose that cannot be shaken by the noise of the world. Self-love is the foundation of a fulfilled life, yet many people search for it in the wrong places. They look for validation from relationships, social status, or material success, believing that love must come from external sources. But the truth is, love must first come from within. Until a person learns to love themselves, they will always depend on others for their sense of worth, leading to a cycle of disappointment, insecurity, and emotional instability. The ability to be alone and truly enjoy one's own company is the first and most important step toward mastering self-love. Many people mistake self-love for arrogance or selfishness, but they are entirely different. Arrogance is an inflated sense of self-worth built on comparison, while true self-love is about acceptance. It is about recognizing one's own value, flaws, and strengths without needing the approval of others. When a person truly loves themselves, they do not settle for toxic relationships. They do not compromise their values for acceptance, and they do not settle for being alone. They understand that their worth is not dependent on how others treat them, but on how they treat themselves. Solitude plays a crucial role in developing self-love because it allows for self-reflection. When people are constantly surrounded by others, they absorb the energy, opinions, and expectations of those around them. They begin to define themselves by external standards instead of their own inner truth. But in moments of aloneness, a person is free to explore who they truly are. They can examine their thoughts, emotions, and desires without outside interference. They can heal from past wounds, set personal boundaries, and cultivate a deep sense of self-respect. A person who has mastered self-love does not fear rejection or loneliness. They are not desperate for validation because they have already given it to themselves. They attract healthier relationships because they do not seek love out of desperation, but out of completeness. The irony is that the more one loves themselves, the more love they have to give to others. A person who is filled with love can share it freely, while those who are empty will always take more than they give. Loving oneself is not about ignoring growth or avoiding change. It is about accepting oneself fully while striving to become better. The journey to self-love begins the moment one embraces solitude. For it is in the quiet moments that a person realizes they were always enough. Emotional independence is one of the most powerful traits a person can develop. It is the ability to stand strong, remain stable, and find fulfillment without being dependent on others for validation, happiness, or a sense of purpose. Many people unknowingly build their emotional well-being around external factors: relationships, friendships, social media approval, or even material success. But the problem with this dependence is that when those external factors change or disappear, their sense of self crumbles. True emotional strength comes from within, and it is cultivated in solitude. When a person is emotionally dependent, they are constantly seeking reassurance from others. They need someone to tell them they are valuable, beautiful, or worthy. They fear being alone because they associate solitude with insignificance. But this mindset is dangerous because it places control of one's emotions in the hands of others. If people approve, they feel happy. If they face rejection or criticism, they feel worthless. This emotional instability creates insecurity, neediness, and a cycle of unhealthy relationships where one is always seeking something they should be giving to themselves, self-worth. The key to emotional independence lies in mastering the art of being alone. Solitude teaches a person to listen to their own voice rather than relying on the opinions of others. It allows them to build confidence from within rather than waiting for someone else to make them feel valuable. When a person embraces being alone, they learn to enjoy their own company, discover their own interests, and find fulfillment in self-growth. They begin to realize that happiness is not something given by others, but something that is cultivated from within. An emotionally independent person does not fear being single, rejected, or misunderstood. They do not chase relationships out of loneliness or compromise their values just to fit in. They are capable of giving love without losing themselves in the process. They form relationships out of mutual respect, not out of emotional desperation. They understand that being alone is not a weakness, but a strength because it means they are whole on their own. The moment a person stops depending on others for emotional stability, they become truly free. They no longer live in fear of abandonment, rejection, or disappointment because their happiness is not controlled by external circumstances. They walk with confidence, knowing that they are enough with or without the approval of others. The foundation of a healthy relationship is not two incomplete people trying to fill each other's voids, but two whole individuals coming together to complement each other. Many people enter relationships seeking validation, love, or a sense of purpose that they have not yet found within themselves. This is one of the main reasons relationships fail, because when a person has not mastered the art of being alone, they unknowingly place unrealistic expectations on their partner to make them feel complete. But true love and connection can only thrive when both individuals have first learned to be content with themselves. Being alone is not a punishment, it is preparation. It is during this time that a person learns about themselves, their values, their emotional needs, and their purpose. When a person embraces solitude, they begin to understand what they truly want from a relationship rather than settling out of loneliness. They set higher standards because they know their worth. They do not compromise who they are just to keep someone in their life. Instead, they wait for a relationship that aligns with their purpose and complements their growth. Many people fear being alone because they associate it with emptiness, but in reality, solitude is a time of self-discovery and self-love. When a person takes the time to build a strong foundation within themselves, they enter relationships not out of desperation, but out of genuine connection. They do not seek love to escape loneliness. They seek it to share the love they already have within. They do not cling to toxic relationships because they are unafraid of being alone. They do not rely on their partner to define their happiness because they have already found it within themselves. The most successful relationships are those where both individuals are whole on their own. When two people who have mastered solitude come together, they bring strength, confidence, and security into the relationship. They do not drain each other emotionally. They uplift one another. They do not fear losing each other because their happiness is not dependent on the relationship alone. Instead, they choose to be together because they genuinely add value to each other's lives. Before seeking love, one must first master being alone. Until a person can be content in their own presence, they will never truly be able to appreciate the presence of another. A strong, fulfilling relationship begins with individuals who have first learned to love, respect, and understand themselves. Clarity and power are not found in noise, distractions, or constant social interaction. They are found in solitude. Many people go through life feeling lost, uncertain, and overwhelmed because they never take the time to step away from the chaos and truly listen to themselves. The world is full of voices telling us who we should be, what we should want, and how we should live. But the only way to discover our true path is by disconnecting from external influences and truly inward. In silence, we gain clarity. In solitude, we find strength. The most successful and influential people in history understood this. They knew that moments of stillness and isolation were necessary for deep thinking, creativity, and decision-making. Great leaders, inventors, and visionaries did not find their purpose in crowds. They found it in solitude. They withdrew from distractions to reflect, strategize, and connect with their inner wisdom. Whether it was philosophers meditating in nature, spiritual leaders retreating into the wilderness, or artists working in seclusion, their greatest insights came when they were alone with their thoughts. Mental clarity is one of the greatest benefits of embracing solitude. When a person spends time alone, free from external noise, their mind becomes sharper. They begin to see things from a new perspective. Their thoughts become more structured, their goals become clearer, and their creativity flourishes. Many of life's biggest decisions should not be made in the middle of distractions, but in quiet moments of reflection. A person who regularly spends time alone develops the ability to think deeply, make wise choices, and trust their instincts. Power is another gift of solitude, not power over others, but power over oneself, the ability to control emotions, manage thoughts, and maintain inner peace regardless of external circumstances. A person who has mastered being alone does not panic when life becomes difficult. They do not crumble under pressure because they have built mental and emotional resilience. They are not easily swayed by public opinion or influenced by trends because they have developed a strong sense of self. Those who fear being alone often live in confusion and weakness, always seeking direction from others. But those who embrace solitude walk with confidence and purpose. They know who they are, what they want, and where they are going. They do not need the approval of the world because they have already found clarity and power within them.